Hello everyone and welcome back to Cinema Shakedown, the weekly podcast that functions as a grab bag for all things film. I'm your host Kyle Craigbaum.
And I'm your other host, Jordan Dennis.
And I'm the other host, acclaimed writer-director Dylan Michael Miller.
Acclaimed, acknowledged, maybe.
You made that exact same joke.
Yeah, sure did.
We're already recycling jokes.
Yeah.
How are you guys doing?
Good, man. Listen, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I mean, fair enough.
I'm fucking surviving, dude. Although, I'll tell you what's got me. Oh my god. I'll tell you what's got me fired up.
Yeah.
What's got you fired up?
Fucking Deadpool happens, right? It's breaking fucking records.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to
Oh,
see this
yeah, it's
fucking
breaking
movie.
records, yeah.
I want to paint a picture for you.
Okay.
This cocaine-addicted, 17-year-old kid in high school. He's going through a bit of an NSYNC phase, right? He's obsessed with Justin Timberlake.
Some say that phase never really ended.
He convinced himself it did for a while, for a reason, right?
Talked himself into it.
Literally studies NSYNC live performances
Yeah.
to get down the choreography. Bye 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 being one of those.
Yeah.
Long story short, he loses almost every girlfriend he's had because they think he's a fucking homosexual.
You're too obsessed with Justin Timberlake.
Along those lines.
It's either me or
just for 4 years later to happen.
Yeah, and now everyone's doing it.
Where I have to fucking scroll through Instagram and just see every disabled person botching the fucking Bye 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 dance. They're not even doing it correctly.
Yeah. I don't think you're giving him enough credit, dude.
My trauma's a trend, dude.
Yeah, dude.
This isn't...
Well, it's because you're a bad person and this is God punishing you.
It's not fair, dude.
It seems kind of fair to me.
Not fucking fair.
I don't know, like...
Anyway, I've been driven up a fucking wall for the past week.
On
On top of that, we watched a bunch of M. Night Shyamalan movies.
Yeah,
Now, hold
Which was
up.
great.
Hold up. There's some interesting stuff in here. Before we get into that, you guys watch anything else?
No.
No.
Oh, the House of the Dragon finale. Should we talk about that real quick?
Yeah, internet's in a shitstorm about this shit.
Overreaction. Like, a bunch of fucking... Listen, I don't know. Like we were kind of talking about it, and yeah, I guess it's, like, a little cheap to, like, end on, like, every plot line ending in a cliffhanger. If, like... Again, like, if this were a longer show, sure, but the fact that, like... I don't know, I want to see this story. Like, I'm glad they're, like... kind of spacing it out as much as they can. You know, I would rather that than the ending of Game of Thrones where they just
and
rush
you know
off
what?
the cliff.
And that's not even fair. I'll tell you, my problem with it isn't the fact on paper that it ends with cliffhangers. It's the fact that it ends on cliffhangers and also doesn't really resolve any of, like... There's no, like, season arcs, and it kind of leads the season to feeling, like, incomplete.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
season one, you can look at it, and there's, like... definitive things in season one that like arc and then end at that finale.
I think what kind of helps season one though is like the fact that it has that kind of like halfway point where it makes the first half of the season feel like more of a complete story,
For
and
sure.
then everything after that is kind of like
it's true.
Last bit of season one all the way to the end of season four.
And I want to say
I mean?
I gave the first season a 9 and I gave the second season an 8. It's not a
No,
fall off a cliff. It's a good season of TV.
No, it's mostly a problem when nerds online are being weird about it.
100%. Only other thing I watched besides M. Night is I rewatched The Thing, my favorite horror film of all time.
Masterpiece.
It's
Yeah,
a
that movie's sick.
I don't think there's been better lighting in a movie since. So
I'm sure I could top that in an argument, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Well, and
I don't know.
that one.
I think you could actually.
Not off the top of my head.
You sure?
I
I
don't
don't want to try.
I don't care to.
I thought I could bait him into it.
I watched, did I mention this last week? Watched Days of Heaven?
No, you did
Terrence
not.
Malick? Dude,
Days of Heaven?
it's one of the greatest fucking movies I've ever seen in my
I keep
life.
thinking you mean fucking Kingdom of Heaven,
Ridley Scott.
the Ridley Scott Orlando Bloom one.
I don't know if I've never even...
I hear the
that
director's.
dude's
I hear the director's cut's great.
I heard it's
He's
fantastic.
got 80 fucking movies. The fact that I...
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But it's a Malick. How much Malick have you seen?
I've seen Badlands. I'm doing them chronologically. And I'm doing that because I did Badlands first.
Yeah.
And then I turned on Knight of Cups. I just jumped right into that.
Oh, one of his weird abstract pieces?
Big fucking whoops.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a fucking mistake. I turned that off.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean...
It was, post Tree of Life, he gets very weird with it.
Isn't that one also like full-blown
It's full blown, but it's a little more narrative than something like Knight of Cups, which is just completely like.
It's just a bunch of wide shots. People go.
Yes, correct.
It's insane. It's incredible. It's for real. I mean, it's better than Badlands, that's for sure.
Didn't you watch something today?
I watched American Graffiti today.
George Lucas.
George Lucas before A New Hope.
How was that?
Incredible. I wish he didn't get all that Star Wars money because I would have loved to see more movies.
Well, you haven't seen Howard the Duck?
No, I have not seen it.
Yeah, you should check that one out. You got to complete the George Lucas.
There's no other movie you can see duck titties, so.
That's a thing?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
At first, I was like, "Fuck off."
Should open
now.
that.
I should open that. We'll find time to talk about it, I'm sure.
And then, of course, all the Deadpool Instagram physically disabled TikToks. You know, that's. You could argue that I rewatched all of those.
So M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah.
Do we want to hop into this?
Director, writer.
So, you know what's funny? The plan for this episode is to talk about Trap and all three of our favorite M. Night movies. Mm-hmm. And Jordan talks us into talking about the actual, some of the worst ones.
Yeah.
Or some of the most critically reviled, we could say.
I'm so sick of watching good movies, to be completely honest with you. I'm sick of talking about good movies.
Well, we'll have plenty of more bad ones next week. So.
And so I was like, you know what? I think we're due for some slop. I think we're due for some fucking pig shit in a truffle. And I think we mostly succeeded with that, I think.
Mostly, but there's some intriguing stuff here.
Yeah.
So we picked a handful, and we're about to talk about them. Starting with, we're doing chronological order. Starting with 2006's Lady in the Water. Yeah. I'm going to say right now, spoiler alert for Lady in the Water, The Happening, and The Last Airbender. I know everyone cares about that. But Lady in the Water was his first film after his reputation started to slip a little bit. People liked Signs, not as much as the first two. They still liked it. A
little more
The Village was a little more. And then this is the first, big bomb he had.
Yeah.
Really bad reviews. I can't
imagine this made too much money at the time.
And what the fuck is the plot of this movie? So Paul Giamatti plays a character who is in charge. He's like the landlord of a motel.
Yeah.
And he kind of stumbles into this fairy tale like situation where a girl emerges from the motel pool, and he kind of finds out she's like the chosen one in this fairy tale story.
She's some sort of mystical water nymph living in this fucking pool.
And he kind of has to find a way to get her to safety from these evil creatures that are after her.
She has to fulfill this
destiny.
This grand destiny or whatever.
And this is a very odd movie.
Yeah.
I am impressed and in disbelief that he got $80 million from a studio.
We looked up the budget while watching it actually because we were like, there was no way this was made for more than 40, 50 mil or whatever.
Yeah,
Imagine
I would guess 50.
Yeah. I found out why it cost that much. They built the fucking motel,
which is crazy to build an entire apartment complex from fucking scratch.
And you know what? I watched this movie first.
Did you?
And I came away from it I didn't hate that.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised I didn't hate that, but I didn't think you guys were going to like it.
No, you thought we were going to fucking hate it.
And then it turns out you liked it more than me. So
sure
I'm very, very interested in talking about this because there's a lot of movie here. There's a lot to talk about. Where do we want to start with this one?
Spoilers. I don't like M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah.
And I was very not excited for Trap. If it weren't for this podcast, I would not have gone to see Trap. And I certainly was not excited to watch any of his other movies leading up to Trap.
Mm-hmm.
I did a deep dive with M. Night Shyamalan's movies when I was 12. He was one of the first directors I did a deep dive on when I was a young Cambodian child. And Lady in the Water was the one that I didn't remember a fucking thing about.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like this movie. Yeah,
really?
It's really fucking good.
Is this top 3 Shyamalan for you?
This is probably... Yeah, top 3.
Wow.
Maybe top 2.
Wow.
When I include the sentiment of the fact
That's
that
fucking awesome to hear.
this is very clearly M. Night Shyamalan's most sincere movie. In the same way
Yes.
that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is Tarantino's most sincere movie.
I'd say this and Signs are his most sincere pieces in terms of but this one, it feels like throughout his career, he's had elements of fables and fairy tales. He really likes that kind of storytelling, and in this one, it's the first time he fully embraces it and makes his own very strangely convoluted, crazy fairy tale.
We're just gonna leave the fucking burp in.
Yeah, why not? Very convoluted, crazy ass fairy tale with some of the dumbest fucking names you've ever heard in your life. But like I said in my Letterboxd review, it's a movie I found very corny. It would kind of lose me and then win me back, and then lose me and then win me back. But by the end, I really like the last 15, 20 minutes, and I think that this movie has such a massive heart.
Yeah.
And it really, it sells the piece. And not to mention the fact that Paul Giamatti is tremendous in this. I think he's
Bryce Dallas Howard as
She's
Story.
Fucking awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the whole, maybe lost you at times and you were back on board at other times. I think, like you said, this movie just has such a heart of its own.
Yeah.
And so much of it's one of his that really, I like the identity that this fucking movie has. And it's, some of the problems with his movies is that they have their own identity.
Yeah.
But they're dragged down by his horrible fucking dialogue and, the M. Night Shyamalan-isms that I just can't fucking stand. Mm-hmm. Whereas this movie kept a consistent language that
sure did.
In almost all of his other movies, I can't fucking stand the way people talk, but it works in this because it is sort of this fable, fairy tale I don't know. This movie just speaks one language, and everyone's on board with it, and it's just fucking great, man. I love this movie.
Yeah, and there's I fully acknowledge that I think some of my complaints, if I was to rewatch this, I think I'd like it better because as you're going, you aren't really sure where it's going, and it kind of feels like it can be a little tonally inconsistent, but once you look at the whole picture, I think it becomes a lot clearer what he's going for and thematically what it's trying to say as well. So I think that with a rewatch, I can grow to like this even more than I do right now.
I think there's so much. Maybe I'm tripping. Maybe I'm the odd one out for liking this the most, but I think this just has the most.
I think there's anything wrong with liking a movie.
I mean, yeah, but there's certain things I like to pick and choose about what makes a movie stellar to me. This movie just has such a fucking clarity that I just adore.
What do you got for us, Jordan?
So here's the thing. I get absolutely why in the heart of Bush America, right in the middle of war in the Middle East, why this sappy, sentimental, hippy-dippy story that is not even subtextually anti-war. That's just the text. That's just what the movie is about.
Yeah.
I understand why this may not have struck a chord back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
However, after over a decade now of post-ironic filmmaking or whatever the fuck you want to call it, where it's just it's jerk-offs, obviously I didn't hate Deadpool and Wolverine, but the Sean Levy type Marvel movies. You know what I mean? Of just blockbusters and even some directors or whatever just kind of fucking winking at audiences and jerking off in our faces, and it's just I think time has been very kind to this movie. Yeah. Reflecting on it, because now seeing such a sincere piece of art from someone who is for all his faults is never short of ideas, is just bursting with cool ideas, and I think we were watching it, and I think, speaking of American Graffiti, I actually compared him a lot to George Lucas, where it's kind of
oh yeah, you did.
He is chocked full of just ideas and concepts, and he wants to put all of them in his movies. You know what I mean? And I think when he's able to kind of rein that in a little bit, it works for the most part. But I think this is one of the cases where he kind of pours his whole heart. Sure, he does the fucking Tommy Wiseau thing written and directed by and also starring in as like the most important, as the fucking like John Connor of this world. Like he's gonna write the most important book of all time, and sure you can interpret this as like a vain ego trip or whatever. What director is not vain and egotistical? Like if you really want to make that argument, every movie is a vain, egotistical testament in some form or
That's
another.
my argument for self-indulgence, by the way.
But it's
self-indulgent.
But I think I don't know, like something about the warmth in this movie just makes it not come across as cynical in the slightest. I don't know.
I thank you for bringing up this point. I would have forgotten it. How I was looking at it when I kind of had heard about this movie and people talking about its egotistical nature. He writes himself as the writer who's going to save the world.
Yeah. First off, he's like barely in the movie.
One, he's not in the movie that much, and two, I see it less as an ego and more as him reconciling with the fact that he is now in this important position and he doesn't think he's worthy of it.
Yeah.
I think that it's like a self-reflective thing that I didn't see as egotistical.
Because the character isn't like, oh, I'm gonna write the greatest.
He's like, what the fuck?
The character is it's probably just M. Night just playing himself. He's like very nervous and like neurotic and like lacks like confidence and everything. And
I don't think it's an egotistical.
No. I think
I also looks really good. Yeah. Some wonky CG for sure.
You know what? We were talking about it actually, and you know what? Compared to some shit I've seen between now and then, I think
it's not that bad.
He also makes a lot of strong choices with the lighting and cinematography to obscure. You never get a good look at the fucking wolf things that are like coming after Story and shit like that. So there's some cool shots.
Shoots it very economical.
The way like it's the last shot of the movie, but the way we never see the eagle, we only see it in the ripple of the pool is a really cool creative decision. That I really
thought we weren't going to get the monkeys right up until the end. I was so disappointed for a second. I was like, God damn it. So I guess we should mention that. So the structure. The whole plot is Paul Giamatti he's basically assembling like a D&D party of different like mystical role fillers. As the movie goes on, you discover its tenants in the apartment and everything.
It's an everyone is connected movie. Everyone at this apartment has an important role.
They're trying to get Story picked up by this eagle so she can like transfer her energy into the universe and bring about
like that.
Yeah. It's like, the good will happen when the eagle takes Story. The good will happen.
I first of all love Jeffrey Wright always. I love him.
Do you notice Jared Harris as one of the stoners?
Dude, the stoners have a joke early on where he like makes up a phrase and they all like dab him up, and that made that like I was losing. So funny.
Might be Shyamalan's funniest movie too.
I think intentionally and unintentionally.
I was gonna say this is maybe the most I've laughed like intentionally at a
I agree
Shyamalan
with that.
movie. Besides maybe one we'll talk about in a little bit. But this like I don't know. This is just like. This just has moxie, you know what I mean? It's got spunk. It's got like I think back then again, like the whole like anti-war, save the trees, we are all one people. I could see how that would come across as like preachy liberal bullshit in like 2006, but I think again like. As we as a people have consumed more ironic and cynical media over the past like 10, 15 years, we have become more cynical, ironic people. And I think as cynical and ironic as we've become, we yearn for movies like this deep down to show us like, that it is okay to like hope and to want good for the world. And that you can be the change you see in the world. This might be a 4. I really fucked with Lady the Water Dog.
James Newton Howard, great score too, by the way. It's a really like it's like a fantastical.
Did he score all of these except Trap?
Yes, he did. Okay. All 3 of them. I mean it does. It has a pulse. It has like something that we're missing in movies
and
now.
it is actually like it has something I think to say more than maybe it was initially.
It's also just audaciously original. Yeah. So original.
You can say whatever you want about Shyamalan. You can never call him unoriginal.
Yeah.
I don't think.
And yeah,
That about it? That about cover it?
It does. I heard a lot of people online calling this like boring, and I never found it boring.
No,
Even when I was baffled by it,
Sure.
I never thought it was boring.
I was locked in pretty much front to back, and I think, to your point, I think this whole thing is kind of carried squarely by a goated Paul Giamatti performance.
So good, dude.
He does that stutter for the first time, and the first time I heard it, I was like, oh, that's gonna be really annoying. But just, I don't know, something
the way
about,
he delivers
he's
it.
so cuddly and just like he just wants to help. You know what I mean? Like he's
That's a great thing to bring up because a lesser actor, that stutter would have been unbearable. But the way he'll sometimes like stutter and like pause and like not finish the word.
the
and
downgrade from leading man from this movie to the next one we're gonna talk about. Astronomical, colossal.
Unreal. Yeah, his monologue near the end almost made me cry.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So good.
And you know,
Bryce Dallas Howard's very good too.
I don't know how. Like I've seen the complaint online. People kind of give Shyamalan the Nolan shit where he can't write, like his dialogue is too like
Clinical.
It's not emotional enough, and I think this movie is like
They
exhibit A, B, and C of
Agreed.
why that's just not. It's like I would use Interstellar for Nolan.
That's what I'm saying. That argument should have ended with Nolan the second Interstellar came out.
He's looking for that 70mm
I'll
re-release
be
later
there.
this year.
I'll be there.
Do we have an IMAX theater anywhere other than
Not a real
Illinois?
one. Not a real one, but yeah.
I hate living in the Midwest.
I do too.
Should we kill ourselves?
I was thinking about it.
Kyle, you in?
Packed?
We'll talk about it off the air.
Yeah, we still got one more episode.
All right, right in.
Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in.
Yeah, like and comment.
It's been a fun ride.
Like and comment whether or not we should end it all, please.
One like and we kill ourselves. So I'm going to give this movie
The fucking night and day, like 5 minutes ago, I was just talking about, like, yeah, this movie's all about the indomitable human spirit and how we should, carry on and love each other and everything. 5 minutes later, like,
What do you guys think about suicide?
yeah, should we, like, kill ourselves? Like, what the fuck? Like, what's up with that? Like,
So this movie, I'm going to give. If we're done talking about it, are we done?
yeah, I think so.
Suicide is badass.
I'm going to give it, for now, before a rewatch, because I do want to rewatch it eventually, a very strong 3 out of 5. Again, tonally it lost me a few times. I did find it pretty corny and contrived, almost intentionally.
I don't know. I see that as a feature.
That's the thing. Almost intentionally, I want to watch it again. Strong 3. Yeah, that's what I'm at.
I am going to give it a pretty solid 3.5. I really enjoyed it. I think this movie has a lot more to offer than, much like a Transformer, it is more than meets the eye, brothers.
What are you at?
I'm at a solid 4. I love when Shyamalan is subdued and sincere and not fucking insufferable.
The emotional arc I watched this man go on throughout watching that movie from the start to like, oh, this is gonna fucking suck.
Yeah.
To like 20 minutes later, like,
Oh wait,
Is
this
this-
is great.
is this kind of good? And then like at the end, just like the Eagles carrying Bryce Dallas Howard off, and we're just fucking
I was just in, dude.
wrecked.
Yeah.
Solid 4.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. It's really nice to see you like something for one.
Sure.
Nice change of pace, honestly.
Yeah, it's nice to not talk about dog shit.
It's
Speaking of dog shit.
yeah. Anyway, buckle up.
Oh yeah, buckle up.
So did you forget what we were doing for the rest of the episode? And next week, too.
Anyway, speaking of me liking shit,
2008. The Happening.
Yeah, you've seen it. You've heard it. Like,
An even bigger bomb, critically, than Lady in the Water.
I mean, it needs no introduction. Universally considered one of the
worst
movies ever made. One of the worst, like, Hollywood movies ever made.
This movie follows a science teacher played by Mark Wahlberg.
Feel the vibrations. See, this is why we need a soundboard, dude.
and
This
his-
is why we need a fucking...
We're gonna get one. And his wife, played by Zooey Deschanel, as a event starts happening, and basically everyone around the or not around the world, around their part of the country just starts killing themselves, and nobody knows why. And
Relatable.
it's like spreading, and they find themselves in the midst of this happening. They say happening a lot. in this
They do.
movie.
They never say the happening, though.
No,
Not one time.
They just say it's happening.
they
Or
call it the event.
Yeah.
the event. What the fuck can you say about this movie?
So,
Yeah.
I think... I don't even know if I could say that I'm going to defend this movie.
I am. If you don't.
Because it's bad. It sucks. It's really fucking awful.
It's a real piece of
shit. Truly broken on every conceivable level. How much of that was intentional on Shyamalan's part is a matter of debate and interpretation.
So yes,
I think
you said it in the conversation for Lady in the Water. I can use it. I'm going to be using it in the conversation for Trap. A lot of his movies, you can argue feature versus bug.
Yes.
Yes. And this movie, the line is more blurred than ever over what is he intending, because he has said he was going for B-movie.
I think this also calls into question. You almost have to rate a movie like this on two different scales. There's your movie critic
and then
brain scale,
and then enjoyment,
and then there's what does this do for your soul? You know what I mean?
Because
it's funny. I'll give it that.
I agree with you.
Fucking hilarious.
It's insane. So it's some of the most stilted, awkward line reads ever, and a sense of humor that is so alien.
That's the only thing I can make of this is that Shyamalan did set out to make a B movie, but doesn't quite know what a B movie is, or doesn't have a real grasp of what makes movies like that enjoyable. Sure, they're poorly made, but that's not because that's not an intention. B movies are enjoyable because they're doing the best with what they're given. And, the best B movies, the performances, it's bad performances, but not because they're just we got to get out of here. We got to take an interest in science. It's because they're over the top and, you know what I mean? So I think, again, even if it was intentional, I just don't know if really, the know-how. And then again, I hate to say that, M. Night Shyamalan didn't know what he was doing. The man made The Sixth Sense. Obviously the dude...
There was an intentionality behind this.
Whatever it was, though, and you know what? Maybe that is the beauty of this movie.
Yeah.
The fact that, 1,000 years from now, when humanity is wiped out, they will be trying to analyze those,
maybe they can figure it out.
Egyptian hieroglyphs. You guys want to know a fun fact?
What?
Completely off topic. Did you know Egyptians had... historians who studied their ancient Egypt. That's how long Egypt was around for.
Really?
I actually just saw something where Cleopatra was closer to the iPhone, was born closer to the iPhone than she was to the pyramids.
Really?
Yeah, dude.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah, fun fact. Anyway, The Happening. Fucking...
So, yeah, what you said, and I sent you a tweet last week that is kind
Jamie,
of
can you pull that up?
how I'm feeling. They basically said maybe people would have been able to buy into the dialogue more if they had gotten any actor other than Mark Wahlberg,
you know who would have played
just doesn't know how to deliver that.
You know who would have played a really good fucking doddering science teacher? What the fuck was Paul Giamatti doing? We couldn't have got him
this
back
movie
for
would
this
have been better if Paul Giamatti was in it. Zoe Deschanel is so fucking awful, but it feels a little more than Mark Wahlberg for sure. I would say the same about John Leguizamo. He felt like he at least knew a little more what kind of movie he was in.
I will agree with you on John Leguizamo. I think Zoe Deschanel doesn't want to be there. That's the vibe I get. I think she's aware of the kind of movie they're trying to make. I don't think she gives a fuck. Yeah. I think she is there to say her lines and get a check, and she's just sure, I'll deliver these weirdly. I know how people talk in Shyamalan movies.
I mean, she for real delivers her lines like she's high as fuck on cocaine, but is pretending to not.
An alien attempting to mimic human speech.
That's what this movie is.
This movie feels AI generated, and yet AI could never make something so humanly egregious.
And that extends to the filmmaking itself, where there's clearly someone behind the camera that kind of knows what they're doing, but there's also something so off about it.
They linger on faces for too long. The fucking dialogue goes on for way too fucking long.
There's some shots that are kind of cool. Conceptually, there's some interesting stuff. The score is kind of interesting too, but none of it congeals properly. It's all
That's kind of what I'm saying when M. Night Shyamalan. I just don't think he really grasps like what makes a B movie entertaining, because I think he thinks in his mind, oh, B movies are badly made and badly shot.
And nobody's on the same wavelength. Like, the score doesn't fit at all.
Right, but the way he, like, shoots The Happening poorly, it's bad in a completely different way than I think the kind of movie he's trying to emulate.
But
which helps, like, but it's also kind of a feature. I don't know.
This is where I'm at, though, because, like, look, yeah, it's like, it's poorly made, horribly acted, it's so off kilter, it's so foreign to me, and it's part of why it's so funny.
Yeah.
And I want that to be a fault. And I'm the first person in line to be like, M. Night Shyamalan is a dog shit, fucking hack, pig, whatever.
And he's not.
Okay, we did In a Violent Nature. Okay?
We sure did.
I used this example, I think, when we were watching the movie.
Yeah.
In a Violent Nature is competently made.
Yeah.
And it has a clear vision at what it's doing when it's creeping behind the killer and we're just following him. And even some of the kills in that movie are competently done.
100%.
But the mistake is in the script. The second people start talking...
I feel I'm getting deja vu. Did we get this, like, rundown? Like, I feel like, did we have this conversation in person?
I quite literally just said that I'm pretty sure I said this after we were doing
we were watching it during The Happening.
I was like,
what the fuck?
So here's the thing. That's a mistake.
Yeah.
They fucked up, and it's very clear that, like, okay, should have been a silent movie. Like, this shouldn't have a fucking script. Everything in The Happening, and I mean everything, like, performances included, you can't accidentally do that. Like, you can't fuck up.
I think you can, though. I think you really can.
Look, and going to, like, Mark Wahlberg as well, though, like, the guy did Boogie Nights. He's been in on the joke before. He's done okay, I'm just giving a 70s porn performance.
Yeah.
But what if that's just how he acts?
What
What if he's just a good actor? What if he's just a bad actor?
I'm agreeing with that. I'm talking conceptually, and for the full idea, though.
Yeah.
Like, this is such in its own fucking, like, it's on its own wavelength. Okay. I like this movie, and it's fucking hysterical. Yeah. You were talking about
one of the most quotable
what it
movies
does
ever.
for your soul.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to get super high and watch The Happening.
Oh yeah,
it's a fucking blast.
Genuinely one of the most quotable movies of all time.
The issue, and this goes into like the whole failed B movie thing you're talking about. It's like, it feels like when it wants to be emotional, because there are scenes in this where they're like clearly trying to do something sincere and emotional. He gets cornered, M. Night Shyamalan, into ditching the B movie plot.
He doesn't know what it wants it to be.
But he is stuck with these shitty fucking performances and this idea that he's had.
Exactly.
So,
like you can clearly tell when he was writing the script, like he was getting to moments, especially towards the climax, like the whole like last like 10, 15 minutes of this movie try way too hard to be like sincere.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of the nail in the coffin for me, that like either this was all intentional and he had no idea what he was doing, or he went into this with a clear head and the best intentions to make his environmentalism follow up to Lady in the Water that was gonna change the world.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about how much of a post 9/11 movie this is.
Yeah, if you want to, you know what? If Lady in the Water is his anti war movie, this was his anti xenophobia,
what
Islamophobia.
kind of terrorists are these?
Yeah, because they think the Happening is a bunch of terrorists at first, because of course they do, and it's just
this movie is the kind of movie where the incompetence is so consistent that it becomes competence, and I don't know how to explain it other than
I think that's actually very beautiful. Like,
it doesn't even circle back around. It achieves orbit and just keeps spinning from good to bad, good to bad. Yeah, it's like a fucking hadron collider, dude.
Not to be confused with good. This movie is
enjoyable.
Yeah.
But what is the judge for good? is this not? I was laughing harder than I've laughed in a fucking long time.
But it's not a comedy. But it's not a comedy.
What is it?
It's not. No. I don't. Whatever you say, I don't think Shyamalan set out to make a comedy with this. There is no way with a climax like that, with them like crying on either side of the wall, as the music is like there's no way.
Maybe not a comedy, but a satire.
Because Shyamalan knows how to write comedy. Like movies of his have been funny, and so I don't like this. This doesn't have enough clarity behind it. To make
there's a lack of clarity for sure.
For me to really buy that he was just trying to make a silly, goofy movie for us to laugh at. I genuinely think he thought he was making. This is the book the guy in The Lady in the Water's gonna write. I genuinely think he thought he went into this making a movie that was gonna like cure global warming.
Sure.
He was like, this is the movie that's gonna like make people and I think that.
Are you saying this is his most egotistical film?
It is far and away.
It might be, and I think it's. Let me collect my thoughts here. I have a lot more to say about The Happening than I thought I would.
I knew it would be.
I don't like. I think the enjoyment benefits because I think if he set out to make an intentionally bad movie, that kind of ruins a bit of the magic for me.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
I don't think intentionally bad. I think a B movie is a little.
I think the only reason this works and is as enjoyable as it is if it's accidental.
Yeah.
If all of these like parts just came together, this puzzle came together so wrong, and just created like the perfect concoction for a vain clusterfuck attempt to get us to stop doing like carbon emissions or whatever. I don't know. I find that conceptually just way more entertaining.
I can live with that. I can sleep well at night with that.
I can too.
Because I was expecting, look, this movie, if you put someone like Kyle, right? You're not catching strays here.
Okay, I thought I was about to.
For the sake of the bit, you are going to play the annoying cinephile guy. I fit into that as well. But put him as the guy picking the movie for family night.
Yeah.
And he puts on The Happening going, guys, you're like, it's a concept, guys. This movie is like Monopoly.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to make your family go, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
They're going to want to put you in a mental asylum, but if you get three really annoying people like ourselves together to watch this movie.
Or illegal substances, or legal, depending on where you're
definitely. Oh, God, I can't imagine watching this movie by yourself, like high on shrooms.
Vibrating
what
and
is
shit.
wrong with me?
Is this how people talk now? What? No.
Yeah.
You like hot dogs? You got a cool shape? Nutritious?
These are all real lines in this movie, by the way.
Yeah, crazy script.
I know it's The Happening, but let's just mention the twist.
What twist?
It's the tree.
Oh yeah, it's the wind. Evil wind is killing people.
And you better believe that there's a scene where they run away from a gust of wind.
Yeah, that's what you were saying about it being environmental. Is like what he's trying to say is like the trees are fighting back because of how we're treating the planet.
This is like it's almost like Lady of the Water with none of like the self-awareness and restraint required to make that story like palatable.
You know what would go into that to make it that?
Yeah.
A massive fucking ego. I like your Lady in the Water. Like this is what he was writing in Lady in the Water.
Yes.
I think that's funny.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like this. This is the cookbook. This is the cookbook, guys.
I think that's actually there's got to be some substance.
And I think he just like listen. Your favorite director. Like, there are very few directors who never miss in their careers. You know what I mean? I just think at the end of the day, the dust settled. In terms of, like, Shyamalan personally, huge miss.
Of course.
Could not have missed. Like,
the miss.
Like...
Well, we'll get to the miss.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah.
I was about to say...
Jesus Christ, this is not the miss.
And it's not even his worst movie.
This isn't his worst movie, no. This is not his worst movie.
Like, it is possibly... his most like egregious, egotistical, half-baked, not thought out, like bizarre cinematic exercise this man's ever done. Yeah. And somehow it is not his worst movie.
Yeah.
Fascinating. And is that it? Is that all we got?
I thought that was a very healthy conversationing for M. Night Shyamalan's The Happening.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like, if you haven't seen it,
Do it.
I would recommend.
I think
100%
I would recommend watching and laughing at this movie.
Yes.
I think that is the best way to go into
Do
this.
not try to intellectualize it like me and Kyle do.
Get your buddies.
No, dude, please do.
Get your buddies.
Oh, man.
Get a couple beers, couple brewskis. Watch the fucking happening. You'll have a ball. You'll have a blast. And you know what? At the very least, I suppose a movie's main objective is to make you think and make you feel. You know what I mean? Like, and the fact that 20 years on, we are still discussing this movie and analyzing it or whatever. You know what? I suppose that is a testament to how uniquely fascinating.
Take a bow, Shyamalan.
Take a bow, Shyamalan. One with a heart.
That's what you're gonna,
All of that, and then I love it.
Yeah, like
1 star.
Yeah, 1 star, but it's like
This shit hit.
I like it. I like it a lot more than some other movies I've given 1 star.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it. You should take an interest in science out of 5.
I like that. With a heart,
honestly.
With a heart.
Normally, I would
With a
call
heart.
that the coward's answer. Like, I don't like the word unreviewable. I think that's like pussy shit.
It's
But this movie,
a fucking anomaly.
Because, like you said,
it's a fucking anomaly.
like you said earlier, there's like 18 different ways to rate this movie.
Like-
so I'm just going to give it a heart.
It all
Leave
comes
it at
down
that.
to how you
Save
like.
yourself the trouble.
Yeah.
It all comes down to how you interpret the intention.
Yeah.
I think that makes or breaks
Yeah,
this movie
for
for
sure.
you.
Oh man.
2 stars with the heart. I actually
Real
I
real as
really,
fuck, honestly.
I had such a good fucking time with this movie.
Blast.
And above all, I saw merit in there.
Little
Yeah.
spoiler for next week. We're about to sit down after recording and watch another Mark Wahlberg joint. We'll go ahead and reveal that at the end or whatever. But
oh boy, we will. Yeah.
oh, goody, more Marky Mark.
Jesus Christ.
Feel the vibrations.
So 2 years. Yeah, there's a 2-year gap between all of these. 2 years
Well-
later. Well, I mean, The Last Airbender.
Hold up top. He's about to airbend right now.
The Last Airbender.
Do you think Aang would do vape tricks?
Give him a couple years, like age. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like 16, 17.
Well, it's like ancient fantasy Asia. They don't. You know what the vape laws are back then.
Yeah, fair
He's
point.
also the Avatar.
This would kill a Cambodian child.
What is it with you in Cambodia?
God-
Yeah, it's a
God
second
forbid,
reference.
yeah.
That's the second time you've referenced Cambodian
God
children.
A third time and you're off the podcast.
You're a thin ice cracker.
So Last Airbender, easily his most critically reviled film, even more so than The Happening.
Not even critically, just everyone hates this movie. I've never met a single person
This is
besides shout out to Silent Dawn on Letterboxd.
this is
You
in
fucking
the,
kidding me?
He does like this movie.
yeah. This is in the bottom 100 on Letterboxd and not IMDb but on Letterboxd is in the bottom 100.
IMDb is cowardly.
And it is the adaptation of the first season of the Avatar: The Last Airbender TV show. And it is.
Which you just watched for the first time.
I
by the
did,
way.
and so yeah, and it follows the story of a
You'll
pair
hog that shit all day.
a
boy?
pair of siblings, Katara and Sokka,
Take my time.
as they find a boy trapped in an iceberg.
Yeah.
And they slowly learn that he is an all-powerful being known as the Avatar,
Yeah.
who is the master. This is the world that's run on sections of people that can
I
master
also
different
don't.
elements.
I don't think there's a single person in our audience
That's
who
true.
hasn't watched
That's
the
fair.
show. Like knowing our demographic,
fair point.
I'm just
Fair point. So the Avatar has to go save the world and learn all the elements and shit.
basically
And-
like.
Yeah.
And he's white.
And they're white.
And he's white.
Not only have they changed all the protagonists to crackers, but he's taken the only brown actors in the movie and changed the villains into representing Indian culture. So like,
But
You guys can't get
so-
mad at me for mentioning Cambodia and then
It's
be
like-
like fucking the Indian director.
It's like double
hates
layers
his
of-
own
it's
race.
like
That's not what we said.
it's like double layers of racism.
Just joking, guys.
what we're saying, like, it is very strange to see a movie that was this whitewashed from a person of color.
Yeah,
Like, I don't.
had to have been a Nickelodeon decision, right?
Well, I know that the girl who plays Katara was like the daughter of like an executive. That's the only reason she got this
Who was
role.
that? Nicola Peltz?
Yeah.
Is that her name?
Yeah. I don't know what her father does.
Shout
but
out to Transformers: Age of Extinction.
God, jeez. So this movie, it's exactly what you'd think from trying to adapt a season of TV into an hour 30 something.
Yeah.
It's literally super fucking short, and it tries to fucking.
If you've seen the first season of Avatar: The Last Airbender,
yeah,
imagine that, but if it sucked.
Yeah. I said in my review, it's like the Cliff Notes of a Wikipedia summary.
Mm-hmm.
It is quite literally. So
they cut out all the best parts.
Okay, Jesus fucking Christ. The worst part of this movie, in my opinion, is the opening 40 minutes. Because it is quite literally incomprehensibly paced. Yeah. You're jumping from moment to scene with no sense of pacing or flow.
No room to breathe whatsoever.
And then because they're rushing through it so much, they have to just throw in either voiceover exposition or characters giving exposition to explain shit.
I think this movie takes the cinema shakedown approach and assumes that you've already seen the show.
Okay.
I think that's kind of the attitude about this whole thing. And so...
Which is a dead on arrival idea because nobody who likes the show is going to like this movie.
And I think Nickelodeon just wanted to capitalize on a very popular franchise that had just ended and didn't want their cash cow to end. And so I think they were like, it'll get butts and seats. We don't need to put effort into it.
There was no way this was shot to be an hour 30. There's got to be
like 10,000 hours of footage on the cutting room floor somewhere.
Yeah. And maybe it's a good idea. Maybe it's a good thing that it got cut.
You know what?
It's shit.
I don't know. I'd sit through 4 hours of this.
So I am the kindest to this movie in this room.
Crazy.
And I say this knowing that it's at the bottom of my M. Night Shyamalan ranking, and I hate this movie.
Yeah.
There are a couple things I like about it.
Not the phone call.
Oh, through the MacBook?
Oh, nice.
There are a couple things I think are okay.
Okay.
Dev Patel is one of them. I think he's okay. If this movie, like, the cast was different, everything was different, but he was the exact same, I think he'd be, like, good for the role. Yeah. Solid. Same with Iroh for that actor. I think that the score is pretty good at moments. I think it has little ditties and you know, things that I like, and I think
Diddy out of this.
and I think that there are some of the action scenes are complete dog shit ass. There are a couple I think are fine. That is the extent of my positives. I'm done. I got nothing else but negative.
I ask you to what end though? Like it's so insurmountably awful. Not only as a film, but it might be the worst adaptation of anything ever.
You could make that argument, and I wouldn't be opposed to it.
I think we were talking about this, I think the whole energy can be summarized by the last scene in the climax, where, you know, if you've seen the show, Aang and crew make it to the Northern Water Tribe, he's got to learn waterbending, the Fire Nation attacks. And in the show, when he finally is like, you know, he opens the Avatar state and goes to the spirit world or whatever, he summons a big, like, water spirit fish mech that he pilots and, like, wipes out the fucking Fire Nation fleet or whatever. Like, you know,
it's epic.
It's this really cool, like, emotional, sweeping moment, and then in the movie, he just makes a big tidal wave and it scares the Fire Nation off, and all of the life and the energy and the creativity and the vision is just not present here. Like, every decision they make in the show, they just change it for the worse in the movie. So like not only is the product bad, but there was no... I find it baffling that no one along the way said anything. And again, George Lucas comparisons, I feel like this is... like I like the Star Wars prequels a lot more than this. Like, but I compare them in the same sense as this... Like, he really thought this was going to be his Star Wars, I think. Like, this reeks of... I don't have anyone to tell me no on set. The studio gave me... I made The Sixth Sense. The studio gave me... Because here's the thing.
Yeah.
I think this movie... If we're tying it all back... Dylan, I will let you talk in a minute. I'm sorry.
I have nothing to say about this movie. Keep going, please. Fill the time.
I think this really completes the arc of the last three movies we've talked about.
Yeah.
Because I think while Lady in the Water is good. I do like Lady in the Water. I think the fact, like, what it's trying to say is the first kind of, like, seedling of M. Night Shyamalan, the egomaniac.
Sure.
He's made The Sixth Sense, he's made Unbreakable, he's made Signs. The Village was, the critics didn't like that one, but whatever, I'll brush that off. And I think, like, it reaches its apex here.
I actually think that that's a great thing, because I think this combined with After Earth is like functions as like ego death.
Yes.
Because then he took a few years off and came back with
He went back to his roots.
Lower budget. And then from there, he's been doing more successfully.
He's been steady. He's
more
been steady
successfully.
since
like,
then.
people didn't love Glass, but
Sure.
like everything else has been pretty
He has not made anything
even
remotely close to this or the happenings since then.
Agree. Yeah, and After Earth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I keep forgetting about After. I mean, I'm sure After Earth's better than this, though. It's gotta be, right?
I refuse to see.
I'm not gonna watch it.
I watched it as like a middle school. I didn't like it, but I don't remember.
I might watch it just to fucking.
Sure.
I think the only Shyamalans I haven't seen now are.
That in the Village.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, what really is there to say? I think you were talking about failure of adaptation, comparing the last scene. A moment that stuck out to me as like how much character they removed from the movie is the sequence where Zuko as the blue spirit is rescuing Hank and he gets knocked out. In the show, when Zuko wakes up, he has a little conversation with Aang, like maybe we could have been friends someday. They completely remove that scene.
Just looks at him
and just leaves.
Like it's so like you mentioned earlier, Dylan. M. Night Shyamalan's a very economical director, I think, in terms of, like, editing and, like, what we're going to show, like, like he, you know what I mean? If he can convey everything he wants to convey in, like, one or two shots, he will. And I think a movie like this, like a big, sweeping, epic fantasy is really robbed of those, like, little character moments with someone like Shyamalan who is, like, I make, like, these tight, like, tense, taut thrillers. I don't know. Like, this whole thing was just fried from the fucking jump. Like, it is
made
just
this movie. Like,
he was the wrong choice.
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
It reeks of like the perfect storm of like a man at the height of an ego trip meeting like a studio just wanting to cash in on a franchise, and you know what I mean. And it just resulted in a whole lot of fucking nothing.
Yeah,
and it's not even like it's not fascinatingly bad in the way bad M. Night because it's a studio.
Because it feels like his most compromised movie.
Exactly. Like
frustratingly bad.
Like it's hard to know how much of this to blame on Shyamalan and to blame on Nickelodeon as a studio, because it is very corporate. But it also does have, like, those Shyamalan... Like, his voice is there. Like, you could tell... Like, if I didn't know this was directed by M. Night Shyamalan, I could probably pick that up from watching it. Just in the... Again, like, the weirdly paced dialogue, which is a bug in some movies and a feature in others. In something like this...
It's abysmal.
It's a bug. Like, it's just... his style just does not work for this kind of movie. I don't think the guy knows how to shoot action. I'm sorry. Like, he just doesn't.
No.
Besides one beat... A couple beats. I agree.
I don't remember a single action set piece in this movie, and I've seen it like 3 or 4 times now.
I remember.
Because here's the thing, like, again, like, they're fine on paper, but the way they're directed, there's no energy, everything, like, again, like, a perfect visualizer for the ambient trip that this movie is when those 5 Earth Kingdom benders do like their choreographed dance and pick up one little rock and throw it.
I think the most energy the action ever has is there's a bit when him and Zuko are fighting as the spirit, or he's a spirit.
Yeah.
And there's a beat where he's within those like rotating like pillars.
Again, good in concept. It's just it's presented like so badly. Like there's just like
there's a lot of like
there's no like visual language. Like you can't like it's the camera just kind of like doesn't move. It just kind of drifts.
Like the cat.
Yeah. I don't know.
And there's something where the choreography and blocking is just too like stilted and slow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Do we have anything else to say?
I mean, the internet's been complaining about this movie for 14 years.
Yeah.
Like, well, what more can we possibly add? It's one of the worst movies ever made. I kind of count this as like an outlier in Shyamalan's career, just because
I barely count this.
It is the only thing he's done that is like studio IP, like, blockbuster type. Like, at least every other movie he's made, you know,
Yeah.
he's written the script, even if he's, like, adapting it. Like
Sure.
it's, like, you know.
Yeah, so I'm going to start because I feel like I'm going to give it the highest rating you've ever heard for The Last Airbender, which is a very generous 1.5 out of 5. I still
They're
hate
gonna
it.
come for you for that.
It sucks,
They're
dude.
gonna kill you.
It's dog shit. It was almost a 1. It was between 1 and 1.5. Who gives a fuck?
That's very generous.
It's not good.
Elaborate on that, though. Why the 1.5?
For the reasons I said before, I like the score. I like why am I forgetting his name? Dev Patel, and I like an action beat or two. It's nonsense. It's shit. Dude.
I don't know. Like they're like I agree with you, but they don't do anything to make this movie better. Like they're good.
And
they're good like in spite of the movie.
I mostly agree with that.
Like, I
never want to watch.
I don't know if I really love the score in this. A lot of it kind of reads like. Sounds of Asia, like you'd walk by, like in the fucking Walgreens, like with the CD racks and everything.
I think James Newton Howard has enough of a handle where even if not all of it stand out, there's some sweeping pieces that
sure, but none of it's like
inspired.
memorable. Like
I didn't think any of it was of note.
Yeah, especially when you compare it to the score in the show, which is like instantly recognizable.
It's nowhere near that.
I don't know, like why not? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like why should I be expected to settle for, James Newton Howard half-assing fucking royalty-free, orchestra action music when for an animated show in 2005 they were able to why are we cutting costs now? What's
Yeah,
I don't know.
1.5.
Half star. This sucks.
Yeah,
This movie's
half star.
awful.
Made me really fucking angry.
Yeah, you were riding the fucking lady in the water high and then came immediately
Well, I was also
down.
riding the wave of alcohol that I had in my system.
You were drunk?
I was blackout drunk during that.
Dude,
and I was furious with this fucking movie.
Kyle, how long has Dylan been drinking for?
How old are you?
I set him up, you knock him down, get his alcoholic ass.
And that brings us to his newest piece, Trap. Spoiler free for Trap for now. We'll get into spoilers. Trap follows a man played by Josh Hartnett, who has taken his daughter to a concert that's kind of like it's like a Taylor Swift level pop star.
Sure.
She's got all the stands.
Lady Raven, played by M. Night Shyamalan's daughter, whose name I do not remember.
I'll look it up while I describe
Jamie, can you pull that up?
But while he's at this concert, he kind of notices that there are cops surrounding the building. It feels like they're setting up for something big, and you find out that he is a serial killer and that this is a trap they are laying to catch him.
Yeah.
And from there, it is basically part concert film, part M. Night Shyamalan thriller with a insane performance by Josh Hartnett, and this movie fucking rocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought that this was the closest that... this is the least serious that M. Night's ever taken himself, I think, in terms of, like, embracing camp.
Yeah.
And I think that the filmmaking, this is one of his best shot movies. I think Josh Hartnett is one of the best performances in an M. Night movie, and I think this thing moves like clockwork. I think it's fucking awesome. It's a little too long. It's really silly, but it worked for me. It totally worked for me.
This movie comes across as much more of an intentional B movie than The Happening does. 100. If I can make the comparison, like this, because B movies are B movies because of like the silly campy vibe. You know what I mean? Like it's not because the actors are bad or it's poorly shot. You know what I mean? Like this movie he shoots the hell. Who's the cinematographer?
It is the same guy who did Challengers, whose name is.
Yeah, I mean,
take a swing, guys.
Sayumbu Muktipram. Sayumbu Muktipram. Sayumbu Muktipram and M. Night Shyamalan shoot the hell out of this movie.
Sure do.
They do a thing where everything that takes place within the concert is all shot from the perspective of Josh Hartnett. So you're only seeing what he is able to see. So some shots will be like, it'll enter a room and then kind of the camera will trace the room like it's his eyes.
Kind of pan around like he's scanning the place.
And it's such a genius way to put yourself in his shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the audience, you feel like you are with this guy.
I won't get into spoilers, but I think most of this movie works super well. Again, we won't get into spoilers, but it does. All M. Night Shyamalan movies kind of take a turn at a certain point. But I think everything, like all the sequences of him just like outsmarting the police and everything. I've seen a lot of comparisons to the Hitman video games.
Yeah.
Where he's using like environmental, like he puts the bottles into the grease fire and makes them explode to distract, so he can like grab like an apron and sneak back somewhere.
Steal a walkie-talkie.
You're locked in for a lot of this, and the whole time he's got to make sure his daughter, who he's brought to the concert, isn't like catching wind of everything. So he's got to like go back to her the whole time and like check on her and shit.
And that's where like you get like the concert sequences,
which are great, by the way.
The daughter's name is Suleika, by the way.
We love Suleika. No, she actually makes bangers. I was vibing whenever she was just doing musical sequences.
And Josh Hartnett is amazing in this movie because he really rides that line between like the cold, calculated serial killer and then trying to pretend to be like this awkward dad.
He complimentary. He reminded me so much of Anthony Starr's Homelander in this movie. Just that
facade,
that anger and fury just boiling just below that thin veneer of like, hi, how are you? How you doing? You know what I mean? Like, I think he really channels that kind of energy for this, and I think it really works.
Before we get into spoilers, I want to hear your thoughts because you're a little bit on a different wavelength.
I didn't like this movie.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you.
It's good to not like M. Night Shyamalan again.
You were worried for a second.
I was worried with Lady in the Water. I was like, well, maybe I missed something. And actually, the truth is that I did. I came out of the theater really, really not liking this movie. And the fact of the matter is I just don't like it. When I kept seeing the trailer for all the movies we kept going to, we would always see the trailer for this.
Yeah.
I thought it looked interesting, and it's always going to be exciting when M. Night Shyamalan comes out with a new movie, but I just saw a glimpse of all the things that I typically don't like about his movies. And the one that I guess is a good segue to start out with is like his dialogue.
Yeah.
I fucking hate the way people talk in his movies.
Yeah.
And I came out of the theater a lot more harsh on it than I should have been, because the fact of the matter is that it is an interesting perspective when you're looking at it through a literal psychopath trying to pretend to be a personable person.
Yeah.
That is an interesting perspective to take with the dialogue. And I don't know, we were hanging out yesterday and talking a little bit about it, so I'll bring it up again. It's like, I know it'd be a completely different movie if, say, this isn't a spoiler, it's in the trailer, but the guy at the merch line. Mm-hmm. It'd be a completely different movie if the psychopath who's pretending to be personal didn't come across as personal, and the merch guy was kind of like, what the fuck is this guy's deal? But it is kind of hard to buy into it when everybody is just kind of like oh yeah, to this guy who's he's speaking so fake and like he's never spoken to a person ever.
I will say, the characters in this movie are all very stupid except Josh Hartnett.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they're all stupid except him. So it kind of helped me accept it a little bit.
And that is how someone in that kind of mind would see it.
Yeah.
It's just, it plays, so like I don't want to say intellectually. As far as the perspective from the screenplay and the filmmaking goes, it makes total sense and it is interesting.
Yeah, it's a personal thing. Like,
compared to
feature bug.
How it plays into the reality of the film and how people interact. Yeah. It's a little infuriating.
I think, and I think that kind of goes to like what I say a lot when M. Night Shyamalan is an ideas guy, where like I think a lot of the time he is more kind of concerned with getting his point across like thematically rather than.
Yeah, and I don't even think it's a theme.
Well,
thing.
In terms of like, is what you are watching like quotient? Mm-hmm, you know what I mean? Like,
I think a lot of the other complaints I have are post-spoiler. I will agree that I think this is far and away his best-looking movie, and it is his most interestingly shot.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's
It is either that or Lady in the Water.
You want to talk about M. Night being economical with his. This is a very like short, tight movie, and up until a certain point, I don't think there's a shot conceived that doesn't like add to something, like him seeing something that's gonna help him, or watching cops at certain points, like. We'll get into spoilers, but
and the last thing I'll say, spoiler free, before we get in, is I think there are obviously legitimate reasons to dislike this movie. It's a very divisive one. It's got like a 50 on Rotten Tomatoes. Some of the negative reviews I'm seeing, I feel like are missing the comedic slant of it.
Yeah.
They're taking it very seriously.
I was going to get into that because this movie 100% is leaning into the silly.
Yeah. This
is camp. It's a dark comedy, campy
This is camp.
Thriller.
Yeah. Because I didn't like it, I'm not gonna put it in the positive silly. But it is 100% leaning into silly.
Well, I think that's why I liked the merch guy, because in something like The Happening, which is clearly trying to be very sincere and shit like that, a character like that would come across as annoying and shit. But I don't know, something when it's actually funny.
Yeah,
it's a little easier for me to digest. I don't know. I thought it was fun.
I
thought he was fine. Yeah.
You also left before spoilers. There's an after credit scene.
I stuck around for it.
That was pretty funny.
I was sitting you were lurking. Standing in
you said, "Oh, I've just seen a movie I don't like. I need to go brood."
Yeah.
All right,
beer.
Let's get into the spoilers. Give our ratings now. I'm going to give it a 4. I loved it. It's my favorite Shyamalan since Split. It was awesome.
Agree. This is a 4, not as big of a 4 as Knock at the Cabin. I prefer Knock at the Cabin a little bit.
Yeah.
But this was a banger. Barn burner.
Banger.
Solid 2.5.
Word.
What were you at before leaving the theater?
1.5.
Interesting. Okay, that's growth.
Yeah, he's talked himself up a star. Or thought himself up a star.
Yeah.
All right, where do you want to start with spoilers? Because you said you have some spoiler thoughts.
This movie turns into a completely fucking different movie.
Really does.
In the second half, and it is led by the wonderful daughter, who is a daughter of M. Night Shyamalan, as we said, who is a great songwriter, even if her music isn't necessarily for me. I also think that's a fun side to take with the dad, where he's it's clearly not his kind of music, but he's there for his daughter. I think that's cute. There's obviously themes of father-daughter with all this. Great songwriter. Horrible fucking actress. I think she is terrible in this movie. I wish her the best.
I disagree.
And typically when the other co-hosts of this podcast are so adamant on disagreeing, I would be like, no, fuck you guys. No, I'm not. I'm unfortunately not alone on this, so I'm content with you guys disagreeing. But no, to me it was I thought she was.
I thought she had a charisma to her. I didn't. Yeah. I thought that there was some rough line reads for sure. She's a first-time actress. I thought that was apparent, but
she had a very static delivery with everything. Even though, you guys take away with the story with where it goes, because hell.
So yes, so around the halfway point, maybe a little past that, in the second act, we hit a point where he has nowhere to go. Mm-hmm. They're backstage with his daughter, and he's about to go through a security checkpoint. He's about to be caught, so he panics. And he decides to go up to the pop star and basically threaten her life and be like, you're getting us out of here in your limo. And from that point, the movie switches perspectives. Kind of. It doesn't, it's not as
switches perspectives for 15 minutes and then goes back.
Yeah. So the last part of the second act and the third act is an entirely different beast of this movie.
Yeah.
First of all, that's one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when he threatens the pop star in the dressing room and that facade drops.
Yeah.
I think he's fucking great in that.
I think I think that really speaks to his performance is there is a noticeable shift from that point where you start to see the facade crumble as the rest of the movie kind of goes on.
Yeah. I also really like the scene with the piano in the family home.
And then
the song.
And then the whole last half of the movie is basically him and the pop star kind of cat and mousing. Yep. She outs him to the family. They and the whole movie he's got this dude held hostage. She Instagram lives a bunch of people on her phone to go get him and shit. So she basically thwarts his whole thing. So they kind of cat and mouse for a little bit. The whole thing kind of climaxes where, after he's outed to the family, Josh Hartnett corners his wife in the home and kind of has this...
Hey, welcome Alison Pill.
Yeah.
Great.
Where they kind of have this conversation, and the whole movie is kind of alluding to Josh Hartnett's mommy issues, and that's kind of the reason why he is the way he is. And I think part of me, I'm of two minds of that whole thing, because part of me likes that it doesn't, like, you get just enough to, like, get the gist and get the picture, but part of me also kind of wish they had explored that a little bit more with this character.
Zero vulnerability that they go into with him. They mention it briefly in like lines.
There's the one scene where he confronts the pop star and she has like the training from the FBI lady to like do the whole like talk to him as if, and I don't know. Yeah. I thought that was kind of an interesting like angle to take. I kind of wish they had done more. I kind of wish they had done more with that.
But then they do nothing with it
that's
until
what I'm saying.
End. I don't think that's a negative. I'll say why. There's a point where like they're kind of sprinkling these issues throughout, and then it culminates during that sequence with Alison Pill, where the FBI woman tricks him while he's drugged up, into thinking that it's his mom, and you're kind of like seeing like, oh, are they trying to humanizing him? He's kind of cracking, and then immediately after he just goes right back to being like the cold like there's like nothing in there, and I see that as
he's not meant to be sympathized with, and so that's why I'm kind of sympathy. And that's kind of like why I'm okay, because you're given just enough to like understand him, like you get it, like but I don't think that I do.
What is the? Because they also mentioned like OCD as well.
I mean, I think he was someone who was depraved of a mother's love as a child and like seeks perfection, and that's why he's always like everything's got to be like nice and neat and perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like because like it's you've seen Psycho, like like I think M. Night Shyamalan takes that approach in a good way where he doesn't hound on that because it's something we have seen done before. So I think he doesn't let it take up too much space. You get me personally, you get just enough to be like, okay, I get what like his deal is like, but you know that's yeah.
And in terms of this third act, I've heard the criticisms about it, and I agree to an extent about some of them. I do think it's a little too long. You could shave 5-10 minutes off. I do think it gets even more silly than it was before. But there's something still really compelling about the way they switch it up and keep it fresh and moving. And that last scene with him and Alison Pill is fucking awesome.
I didn't love the ending of this movie coming out of it, where he's caught by the cops. He shares like one final embrace with his daughter, and then he one last act of OCD. He like sets her bike up in the yard, but what you don't see is that he takes a spoke off the wheel. And so when they got him back in the SWAT car, you think they got him, but then he unbucks the handcuffs. So I think this whole movie kind of speaks to what I was saying, where M. Night Shyamalan is more concerned with getting his point across thematically than if like the narrative is satisfying.
I agree with you.
Because the whole thing about the movie, the whole thing, it is clearly his meditation on being a good father while doing his life's work. And the balance that requires to maintain, he is
work life
he
balance.
Is directly comparing being a serial killer to being a filmmaker, which based by the way. Yeah. But I think I don't know. Like again, we just praised Lady in the Water for being so sincere and non-cynical, but I like
how cold it is.
I like how cynical the ending of this is. Like no matter how hard. Like he tries to fight like this work obsessed side with himself. It's always gonna. It's always gonna be
that last shot has really grown on me with him just laughing in the back of the.
Because he'll never stop. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I again, yes, this is probably his most cynical, least human piece, and I think that is for the benefit of it, just because it's something different.
There's like almost an edginess. Complementary to it in terms of compared like relative for him,
right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's never been like a super edgy director.
Yeah, does he have a single other movie where the bad guy wins in the end? Like,
Unbreakable, if you want to.
Oh, sure, you want to count that.
Well, how are you feeling?
I don't like this movie.
I know. I didn't know if you had any thoughts on what we were saying.
And, I mean, I guess onto what you guys were saying about the ending, like.
Yeah.
You know, I don't need resolution in a story.
For sure.
In fact, there are a lot of cases where I prefer ambiguity.
Yeah, of course.
Sort of just like the not a cliffhanger, but sort of the he's just gonna keep on doing it kind of thing. So I guess I'll say as a warning to the audience, do not go in to an M. Night Shyamalan movie for the first time. Well, maybe aside from Lady in the Water. For the first time, don't go into an M. Night Shyamalan movie looking for the ending to have a bow tie on it.
Yeah.
Especially not a twist, because
This isn't that kind of movie.
you do not get that.
No.
And that's purely a personal thing, and also kind of I probably shouldn't have gone into the theater expecting M. Night Shyamalan movie to have a resolution.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Again,
Well,
I
counterpoint. I don't think this movie doesn't. It has a resolution. Like, it resolves. The resolution is that he can't be stopped.
Sure.
Like, you know what I mean? So I just think it's unfair to say the movie doesn't have any resolution. Like,
It didn't give me the satisfying.
Okay,
all right,
yeah.
I can accept that.
Which M. Night Shyamalan doesn't even always do.
Yeah.
But he certainly attempts.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. Where, like, again, like, in his mind, I think he is making a point thematically, and he doesn't really care if you're narratively satisfied. And I like, again, sometimes it's a bug, sometimes it's a feature. With M. Night, one of the few directors, it depends movie to movie. Like, it is movie to movie, whether or not, like, because his style never wavers.
Yep.
He is M. Night through and through, no matter what he is making.
Yeah.
Again, and that's why, like, it just depends on the idea and how it all kind of shakes out. You
and
know?
I would say this is the reason why he's one of the most fascinating directors working today, is that the expression "one man's trash is another man's treasure" is that all the reasons that you hate Shyamalan, another person could, or all those reasons could be why it's their favorite director.
Like, someone could despise Lady in the Water but love The Last Airbender. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where good, bad, like, subjectivity, personal preference. He is so, like you said, it's always exciting when a new M. Night Shyamalan movie comes out, because you never know what you're gonna get.
Amen.
I am a fan of M. Night Shyamalan. I'll say that on the podcast.
That's your big takeaway from
I am a fan of him. Yes.
I'm a fan of good M. Night Shyamalan.
Sure.
He's not like Adam Sandler.
And The Happening. I don't think he's missed as many times as people like to pretend. Like, we've talked about the big ones.
The problem
here.
is, it was like 5 consecutive misses.
That's the issue.
In like a 10-year span.
That's the issue.
Like,
but
he,
I think
he just went on a streak for a while.
He's bouncing back, though. My man's bouncing back.
No, he's steady now. Listen, the from, like, Knock at the Cabin to Trap, I both really enjoyed. Yeah, I'm obviously I'm sad for whatever he's got cooking up next.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we gave our ratings for that. I think that's the end of the discussion.
It's the end of the Shyamalanathon.
Thank you guys for listening.
Dylan, I applaud your restraint not making fun of M. Night Shyamalan's name one time this episode. I'm actually really
such a
I'm
tired
actually
joke.
genuinely very proud of you for that.
Yeah.
There's still critics doing the Shyamalama Ding Dong thing that's like
Corny fucking
cornball.
Like 2006 called.
So yeah, that's the episode. Next week, we're talking about
Dylan, you like talking about dog shit, huh? Buckle up, buddy.
Yeah, but dog shit with no personality this time. So we're in anticipation of the highly anticipated Borderlands.
Famously good test screen hammer Borderlands.
We're talking about a couple other video game movies. So
what video game episode is this?
I
3?
think this is 3.
Whoa.
Yeah. So we're along with Borderlands.
We complete the trilogy.
We're talking about Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time and Max Payne. I'm going to be seeing Cuckoo, but I don't think we're actually talking about it on the episode.
You're very excited for Cuckoo.
Fuck yeah. Hunter Schafer, step on me.
Jesus Christ.
If you like the podcast, you can follow it on Twitter at Cinema Shakedown and Instagram at Cinema Shakedown Pod. You can follow me personally on Twitter and Letterboxd at Kyle Craigbaum. That's KrieGhBaum.
Dylan, where can they find me? I just want to know if you remember.
Instagram, Twitter, Letterboxd, something to do with Jordan Dennis.
Perfect. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Close enough. And You can find him on the back alley of a Denny's.
You can follow me on
2 a.m.
Letterboxd and Instagram at the Slope Guy.
Bye.
Love you.
Yeah.